Yeah, and I from looking at the work that you've done, it's very coordinated. It sounds like a lot of it is or certainly procurement and procurement excellence are very involved in driving the process and defining the process and help make that process work for everybody. I have come across many situations where procurement and IT will clash in a sense that IT or even finance, but IT might say we've got certain systems already in place and we want to go with a system that directly aligns with those other systems. Whereas procurement might be saying, well, actually, we want something that's going to do the job as effectively as it can be done in the way that it needs to be done with a procurement first approach. Is that something that you've come across yourself, or is that something you've come across when speaking to other people in the industry in terms of how they manage that, where there's a balance of power, but it depends whether whoever the key owner of the process is, it might be the chief financial officer, for example, whether they say, well, you're making the decision in procurement, or actually IT are making the decision. Have you seen much of that kind of conflict come up?
Yeah, that's it can be quite complex. There are many different standpoints in that area. I think that, and you already mentioned it, we're talking silos here, where it's the IT department, the finance department, the procurement department. And what I've seen, and that is a great example that I mentioned earlier, the shared service organization in my previous organization. It was an organization where you didn't have those silos. You had integrated teams of people from IT, procurement, and finance who were working closely together to solve the problems in the benefit of the entire organization. But I've also come across situations, and I heard about situations where these are different functions and they have their own objectives, and sometimes the IT department is already happy when they deliver the technical solution, and even when nobody is using it, or finance is find it very important that we see the savings in the P&L statement, whereas procurement is already then working on another project and not interested in it anymore. So these kind of things require very close cooperation, and therefore I think it's important that organizations try to how you say that in a nice way, get rid of the silos in the organization and increase close collaboration and communication between those departments, so that everybody finds a win-win in the end.
Like you say, it comes back to centralization, which is the key theme of what we're talking about here. So in terms of choosing the right solution, there are many factors involved with that. There are many different parties involved with that. But procurement excellence, for example, if that function exists within an organization, then they're in a very good position to be able to centralize that and to take a strategic standpoint to problem solve for the benefit of the whole company, taking into account all of the different factors that there are there. So that's one side of it. But then there's a whole other side of it, which is you alluded to it when you were talking about if a system gets put in and nobody uses it, that's not a solution. What about the change management side of it? How would you? It's a bit of a difficult one to weight, really. But do you have a thought in your head as to how much weighting is with this type of process is going to be choosing the right solution and implementing it versus change management?
Yeah, I think change management is definitely the most important one. In the end, it's about using the solution, and I think the differences between many solutions that there are today are not that big. All those solutions can, in one or the other way, support the common procurement processes. So in the end, it's about making sure that the teams use those solutions in the right way and in the best way for the organization, and that you can only do when you understand how it is to use the system and how it can be improved. So it's about working with the people and making sure on the one hand that the people make the right, do the right behaviors, but at the same time, they can only do the right behaviors if they have the understanding and the capabilities of what is required. So it's all about working with the people in the end.
Yeah, and at what point in the process, obviously it's going to depend on the specific scenario that you'll find yourself within an organization. It's going to depend on that organization, but how much of the so you've obviously got the process definition side of things, and understanding what's the as is scenario, and then obviously leading on to where you want that process to be. But when you look at the change management aspect of it, how much of the conversations around change management have already taken place by the time you need to start looking in the market seriously for the right type of system? Is it something that the two processes will start very much in parallel, or is it that, you know, you'll have a lot of process work and a lot of change management discussion before you even start looking at systems?
I think that depends very much on the situation, but to my experience, I have had similar things. But once that you know you're going to look for a solution, you already have to think about change management. So probably that's the way it goes. You think about a certain part of the process that's not working well or that can be automated. Then you start thinking about a solution, a system or something like that. Then that's the right time also to start thinking about change management, because when you get the buy-in from the people in the team who are going to really work with that solution, that's already a big gain. So if you can involve them already in selecting the right solution or in identifying the issues that they face, then you have a much better starting point than when you do it as a kind of ivory tower, or from an ivory tower where you sit as a procurement excellence overlooking the procurement organization, and you tell them, okay, we think this is best. Usually that doesn't work very well, because then as a procurement excellence department, you're then too far away from the day-to-day business and the needs of the stakeholders of the procurement organization.